So, now we are going to learn how to solve an extensive form game. We have already done so, but now we are going to look at it in little bit more detail. So, let us take an example. Here we have that player 1 decides to play A or B. If player 1 decides to play B, then game ends. If player 1 decides to play A, then player 2 gets to play, and player 2 can decide C or D. If player 2 decides D, then game ends, and if player 2 decides C, then player 1 get to play E or F. So, just randomly I am putting some number. Here is 5 6, here is 7 4, here is 3 5, here is 4 2, and we will try to solve this game. As we have already taken help of common knowledge and we have learned that we can start at the bottom, we are doing something called backward induction. So, if game reaches to this point, if player 1 has to decide here, if player 1 decides E, then player 1 gets 5, if player 1 decides F, player 1 gets 7. Which is more? 7 is more than 5. So, if player 1 is rational, player 1 is going to play F at this particular point. Now, if you look at it from here, player 2 knows that player 1 is rational, and given a chance opportunity to play this game between E and F, player 1 is going to choose F. So, here if player 2 decides to play C, player 1 will get 7 and player 2 will get 4. So, player 2 has now need to compare between this 4 and 5, which is more? 5 is more. So, player 2 is going to play D, and in that case player 1 will get 3. So, player 1 is looking here, player 1 knows that player 2 is rational, and player 2 given a chance, given an opportunity, will pick D because D is better. So, now player 1 has to decide between A and B. You look at here 3 and 4, 4 is clearly more. So, player 1 is going to choose B. So, the in equilibrium, think about it, that right at the beginning player 1 will choose B, game will proceed in this direction and game will end here. Player 1 will get player 1 will get 4 and player 2 will get 2. Some of the observation you should pay attention to, that this part of the game will never be reached, because game 2 gets to play only if player 1 plays A. Player 1 is not going to play A, because playing A means he would be getting 3 and playing B means he would be getting 4. So, right at the beginning he will decide to play B and game will end. So, as it would appear that there is no strategic interaction between player 1 and player 2, player 1 is directly deciding on its own because player 2 never comes into picture. But think about it further, why does player 1 decide to play B? Because player 1 knows that if he decides to play A, player 2 is going to play D. So, player 1 is not randomly choosing between A and B, player 1 is consciously deciding to play B, because given a chance player 2 is going to play D. So, player 1 is reacting, not of actual move of player 2, because there is no actual move, game has never reached to this point, but player 1 is reacting to what player 1 think that player 2 is going to do. And why player 2 is going to play D? Because player 2 knows that if I play C, then player 1 is going to play F. So, player 2 is reacting to the move of player 1 at this particular point. So, the funny situation is that game is just happening here, but why it is moving in this way? Because player 1 anticipates that if A is played, player 2 is going to decide D, and player 2 decides D because player 2 knows that if game moves in this direction, player 1 is going to decide F. So, player 1 is reacting to player 2 and player 2 is reacting to player 1's move that would happen in the future. So, in fact, if you think about it, player 2 is reacting to the move here of player 1. So, in a way player 1 is also reacting to his move at this particular point. So, now you would appreciate that why strategy is written in this way. We cannot simply say that player 1 plays B. This is not a decision theoretic problem, this is a game theoretic problem. So, player 2 plays B in reaction to player 2's D here, and why player 2 plays D in reaction to player 1's F here. So, in a way player 2 is reacting to player 1's strategy of BF, which is a short for play B at the beginning, sorry, for player 1 play B at the beginning and play F if player 2 plays C. So, player 2 is reacting to this particular strategy, which in short we can call it BF rather than writing the whole 2 sentences. And therefore, we cannot simply say that player 1 strategy here is either, so sometimes some students tell me, I can understand that we are talking about a strategy called AE, because if player 1 plays A and then there is a chance that player 1 will have to play again, and in that case he plays E, or AF because there is another chance that player 1 will have to play. So, typically when they are asked to write the strategy of player 1, they write B, AE, AF, which is wrong, which is clearly wrong. What are the player 1 strategies? Player 1 strategy is AE, definitely it was earlier AE, AF, that is another, BE and BF. These are the 4 different strategies of player 1. You can very well say that if player 1 plays B here, game ends. Why do we need to describe what player 1 is going to do here? But player 1 is not randomly deciding to play B, because player 2 is forming a belief about what player 1 is going to do if given a chance. When we are thinking of a equilibrium, we have to consider the whole situation, not the partial situation. Anyway, we have moved to the strategy, this is the strategy, and we have already talked about how to solve game. So, here of course, here player 1 will play F, here player 1 will play D, and here player 1 will play B. So, outcome is 4 comma B, but when we are writing equilibrium, we will write that player 1 plays B F, because B goes like this, and here because given a chance here player 1 will play F and player 2 is going to play D. So, this is the equilibrium. In this equilibrium, player 1 will get 4 and player 2 will get 2. So, that should be clear to you. This is also called rollback equilibrium or backward induction equilibrium. These are the different names. Pretty soon we are going to talk about them in much more formal manner. You may be wondering, more formal? Yes, little bit more formal we are going to talk about. So, let us take another example to understand the backward induction and the equilibrium that we have been obtaining, that we can call backward induction equilibrium or rollback equilibrium. Let us say that there is a player 1 who decides either to play A or B. If he decides to play A, player 2 decides to play C or D, and if player 1 decides to play B, then player 2 gets to play, and player 2 can play either E or F. And here is payoff 3 comma 1, 1 comma 1. 2 comma 5, 3 comma 4. So, how to solve such a game using backward induction? So, we have to move to terminal nodes. How many terminal nodes are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the 4 terminal nodes. And we can see that these 2 terminal nodes are reached because player 2 has decided to play either C or D. And we say these 2 terminal nodes are reached because player 2 has here decided to play E or F. So, we can basically decision, if we move in the backward direction, decision is being made either at this point or at this point. And because we are at the last stage, there is no strategic interaction. Here player 2 is acting on his own. If game has reached to this place, whatever has happened in the past is now immaterial. Game has already reached here or game has already reached here. How it has reached to one of these 2 points would not matter. What matters now that player 2 has to decide, and player 2 at this point can either decide between C or D. C gives player 2 1, second number belongs to player 2, and here also 1. So, we can say that player 2 is indifferent between playing C or D. How can, what number should be put here? Here player 2 has to decide either E or F. Player 2 does not have to worry about any strategic interaction because there is none. If game has reached to this point, only player 2 has to decide, and player 2 can decide either E or F. E would give player 2 5 and F would give player 2 4. 5 is definitely more. So, player 2 is going to decide E, and it is very clear that here it is going to be 2 comma 5. Let me use a different colored green, I have been told not to use. So, 2 and 5. So, if player 1 decides B, player 1 knows that the payoff to player 1 is going to be equal to 2. How about here? Now, there are 2 possibilities. Either it can be 3 comma 1 if player 2 decides to play C, and 1 comma 1 if player 2 decides to play D. Both are possible because player 2 does not care how much player 1 is going to get. Player 2 cares about only her payoff, and her payoff is the same. So, we can do the reduced form game here, that A, B, and let us say here it is either 3 comma 1. So, 1 we will consider just 3 comma 1 and here 2 comma 5. What should player 1 do? Player 1 would, of course, player 1 expect that player 2 to play C, then player 1 should play A. What would be the outcome? Outcome would be that player 1 plays, gets 3 and player 2 gets 1. What we can say here further, that player 1 has played A here and player 1 has only 2, possibly either play A or B. How about player 2? Player 2 strategy is in this particular case C here and E here. So, in short we can say player 2 has played CE. What is CE? If I write in detail, player 2 plays C if player 1 plays A, and it should be just play, and play E if player 1 plays B. That is what CE means. And so, outcome is going to be A comma CE, that is a rollback equilibrium, that is a possible rollback equilibrium. There is although another possibility that player 1 believes that if he plays A, player 2 is going to play D, and in that case outcome is going to be 1 comma 1. Notice that for player 2 playing C and D, are equally good. In both cases player 2 gets 1. So, it does not matter, and here it is definitely 2 comma 5. So, in this case player 1 is going to play B. So, B comma, and here because how did we get 1 comma 1? Because player 2 has played D here and player 2 will definitely play E here. So, this is another rollback equilibrium. So, what do we get? In this game we get two equilibriums. One is A comma C E and second is B comma D E. Let me emphasize once again that player 1 has two strategies A and B, and player 2 has 4 strategies. What are those 4 strategies? In short, we can call them CE, CF, DE and DF. These are the 4 different strategies available to player 1. Now, again let us take one more minute to understand that when player 1 is playing at this particular point A or B, again player 1 is not playing randomly. Player 1 is forming a belief about what player 2 is going to do at this node and what player 2 is going to do at this node, because if player 1 plays A and player 2 plays C, then game reaches here and it ends. All these branches are useless in a way, but it is not, because the decision is getting influenced by presence of such branches. So, when I say that A comma C is an equilibrium, what do we mean? That A believes that given a chance for player 2 to play this game at this node, player 2 is going to pick C and player 2 is going to pick E. CE is rational for player 2. Player 2 will never play F here. Why? Because E gives more than F, 5 is more than 4, but that same thing cannot be said here, both are equal, and therefore C comma E is rational behavior from player 2 and so is D comma E. But if player 2 is going to play CE, A is the best response from player 1. This is the best player 1 can do, and if player 2 is going to play DE, then player 1 should better play B. So, CE is best response of A and A is best response of CE, and therefore, this is a rollback equilibrium.